They say some houses never forget. They remember every scream, every whisper, every secret buried inside their walls. And if you listen carefully, sometimes the house listens back. This is the true story of Amityville, New York, a quiet town that became home to one of the most terrifying hauntings in American history. A story that began with tragedy and never really ended. It was November 13th, 1974. Ocean Avenue was silent except for the wind off the canal. Inside number 112, the DeFeo family slept. By morning, 6 of them were dead. Police found Ronald DeFeo Jr., 23, the only survivor. He said voices had told him to do it. No one could explain why no neighbors heard the gunshots. The crime shook the town, but soon the story faded. The house stood empty for more than a year, its white paint peeling, its quarter-moon windows staring out like eyes. Then, in December 1975, George and Kathy Lutz bought it. They knew what had happened there, but the price was too good. They moved in with their 3 children and their dog, Harry. They thought they could make it a home again. The first night was calm. The second was not. Cold spots appeared in the hallways even with the heat on. Windows slammed shut on their own. A swarm of flies gathered in the sewing room. Dead winter, no reason for it. Father Ralph, a friend of the family, came to bless the house. As he sprinkled holy water, a harsh voice shouted, "Get out!" He did. He never went back. George woke every night at 3:15 a.m., the exact time of the murders. He said he heard footsteps in the hall, marching in rhythm. Kathy had nightmares of the killings, seeing them room by room, doors ripped from hinges. The children began talking to an imaginary friend, a girl named Jody. When Kathy asked what Jody looked like, they said, "She's a pig with red eyes." Outside, George found hoof-like tracks in the snow that led nowhere. He tried to ignore them, but the feeling grew heavier each day, as if the house was feeding on their fear. 28 days. That's how long they lasted. Lights flickered at night. A foul smell seeped from the walls. The crucifix on their wall twisted upside down. Their dog barked at something invisible until it nearly strangled itself on the chain. Kathy said she floated above her bed one night, frozen, unable to scream. George saw shadows moving in mirrors, faces that weren't his. He stopped eating. He stopped sleeping. He started to look like the man who had lived there before, Ronald DeFeo. On January 14th, 1976, after another sleepless night, they ran. No lights. No laggy. Just terror. They left everything inside, their furniture, clothes, even food on the table. They never went back. Weeks later, paranormal investigators Ed and Lorraine Warren arrived with a small team. They walked into silence thick as fog. Lorraine said she felt a darkness, like being underwater. Down the hallway, the temperature dropped to near freezing. One cameraman took a picture near the staircase. When the film developed, a small boy's face looked out from the shadows. White eyes, pale skin. No children had been present. The Warrens left convinced something evil remained. They said the ground beneath the house was cursed, tied to older tragedies. Skeptics called it imagination. But the Lutz family took polygraph tests. Both passed. Books were written. Movies followed. And soon, the word Amityville meant fear itself. New owners moved in. They changed the address to keep tourists away. They said nothing strange ever happened, but most didn't stay long. Some reported the same cold spots. Others said the air felt heavy, like being watched. George and Kathy Lutz moved across the country. They rarely spoke about it again. When asked if they believed the haunting was real, George said quietly, "The horror wasn't just in the house. It was in what it did to us." Lorraine Warren would later say, "There are places where the veil is thin. That house was one of them." Today, the house still stands by the canal. Fresh paint, different windows, a new number, but locals still avoid walking too close. Some nights, fishermen claim they see a light move from room to room, like someone carrying a lantern through the dark. Maybe it's imagination, maybe it's memory, or maybe some places remember too much. Because in Amityville, the horror never really ended. They say walls can't talk. But if you ever stand before that house, if you listen long enough, you might hear them whisper back,